name is Anna Riley Fry, and I'm going to be talking about the theater of the oppressed and transforming social change through performance. Augusto Boal, a Brazilian theater specialist, developed the transformative theater style known as the theater of the oppressed in the 1960s. By giving people, especially those who are excluded by society, a platform to examine their circumstances and confront oppressive systems, it seeks to use theater as a vehicle for social change. The distinctive feature of the theater of the oppressed is its emphasis on active engagement, which blurs the boundary between the performer and the audience. The theater turns into a forum for discussion, introspection, and action, in addition to being a place for amusement. This presentation will examine the history of the theater of the oppressed, its main methods, its influence on theater around the world, and its potential as a vehicle for social change. Brazil went through a period of instability in politics and society that gave rise to the theater of the oppressed. Paulo Freire, a Brazilian educator renowned for his work on literacy and education, served as an inspiration to Augusto Boal, who began his career as a dramatist and director. Boal developed an inclusive style of theater as a result of his own encounters with political repression, censorship, and the death of educational opportunities for underrepresented groups. Giving marginalized populations a voice and enabling them to actively participate in the construction of their own narratives was the main objective of the theater of the oppressed. Following a military takeover in 1964, a dictatorship that severely restricted free speech was established in Brazil. Boal's initial work as a director was on traditional theater, but he quickly came to the conclusion that this style did not give spectators the chance to actively participate in or confront societal issues. This insight led to the creation of the theater of the oppressed, a technique that would ultimately transform the interaction between the artist and the audience. In post-revolutionary settings, when people required means to confront and solve injustice, oppression, and inequality, the employment of the theater as a weapon for social transformation became especially pertinent. A number of fundamental strategies that reinterpret the function of the audience and the theater itself are at the core of the theater of the oppressed. Forum theater, invisible theater, legislative theater, and image theater are the most well-known of these methods. Possibly the most well-known and frequently applied method is forum theater. In this format, a scenario where a protagonist encounters a major conflict or oppression is performed by actors. Following the performance, the audience is asked to step in and offer fixes for the issue. The actors reenact the scenario, enabling the audience, now referred to as spec actors, to actively engage and experiment with various tactics for overcoming the protagonist's oppression. This method empowers participants to imagine novel approaches to societal problems and promotes group problem solving. Conversely, invisible theater occurs in public settings where the audience is not aware that they are watching a performance. Without the audience being aware of the performance in advance, the performers portray situations that depict real-life problems, like racism, gender injustice, or economic exploitation, evoking public reactions. This approach questions societal norms and initiates discussions about oppression in ordinary contexts. By fusing the arts with political activism, legislative theater transcends conventional theater. Using this method, players write scenarios that draw attention to social problems and utilize the theater as a forum to establish new laws or regulations. Direct community engagement and communication are intended to promote legislative change. Numerous nations have used this type of the theater of the oppressed to address concerns including workers' rights, housing, and education. Using positions of the body and shapes, image theater creates tangible representations of concepts, feelings, or social circumstances. In order to represent a variety of their experiences and the difficulties they face, participants utilize their bodies to make still photos. This method is an effective nonverbal communication tool that enables people to communicate complicated ideas in a way that is not limited by words, known as image theater. The theater of the oppressed and reworking of the audience-actor relationship is among its most groundbreaking features. The audience in conventional theater is passive and only watches what is happening on stage, but this role is reversed in the theater of the oppressed. This turns the spectator into a spect-actor, a person who actively participates in the performance. This transition is essential to the goal of the theater of the oppressed, which is to enable underrepresented communities to take charge of their own narratives and use theater as a vehicle for social change. Through audience participation, Theater of the Oppressed establishes a platform for people to address their particular experiences of oppression and help develop solutions. Participating in a performance turns into an opportunity to achieve both individual and group liberty. Because they are collaborators of the story rather than just passive viewers, spectators are able to develop a sense of power and self-determination. The Theater of the Oppressed has made an impact on people all around the world. Since its beginnings in Brazil, Theater of the Oppressed has expanded to several nations, where groups are utilizing it to combat everything from poverty and inequality to political oppression. Theater of the Oppressed has been utilized in schools, jails, and community theater programs in South Africa, India, and the U.S. to provide a voice to underrepresented populations and fight social injustices. For instance, the impact of segregation and the continuous struggles of the black population have been addressed in South Africa through the Theater of the Oppressed. In the same manner, it has been used in rural India to address the problems including gender-based violence and racial discrimination. Correctional facilities in the U.S. have employed Theater of the Oppressed approaches to assist inmates face their past and have conversations about crime, punishment, and rehabilitation. The Theater of the Oppressed versatility makes it an effective instrument for tackling a variety of societal problems. It encourages discussion and group problem solving, allowing people to take initiative in their local communities. Theater of the Oppressed offers a universal framework for comprehending and combating oppression in a society that is becoming increasingly connected by the day. Theater of the Oppressed faces difficulties in spite of its achievements. Some critics argue that Theater of the Oppressed techniques can be too straightforward or that they ignore some underlying structural problems of oppression. Others point out that in some political or cultural circumstances where freedom of expression is severely restricted, Theater of the Oppressed can be challenging to carry out. In certain instances, the methods could be viewed as overly idealistic or unrealistic, failing to significantly alter firmly existing structures of power. Additionally, the degree of dedication and involvement from the organizers and participants is critical to the effectiveness of the Theater of the Oppressed. Sometimes the methods are misused or misinterpreted, which results in a shallow discussion of significant societal issues rather than significant change. The Theater of the Oppressed continues to be a potent force for social change, providing a distinctive style of theater that enables people and groups to speak out against oppression and fight for justice. Through strategies like legislative theater, image theater, forum theater, and invisible theater, the Theater of the Oppressed offers a forum for collective action and the hearing of underrepresented voices. Even though there are difficulties in putting Theater of the Oppressed into practice, its continuous application in the modern world indicates that it is a priceless tool for promoting empowerment, social change, and communication. Thank you.